Hi. Today I received an email from one of the students in this class with a number of questions about the theory readings. Um, One of the first questions was, again, the difference between determination or the definition of determination and production. And so I'd like to refer to the first YouTube video clip on getting started, and that should um, help you with that. I would also like to say that apparently the first chapter that's been uploaded to the website is from an older edition, and he doesn't, Wallace and Shepard don't discuss determination and production that much in that book. So that's on me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the 2 pages from the newer edition of Studying Plays and put that up for you on determination and production, because those are really important terms to know. And hopefully that will clarify a lot of the questions that I've been receiving. But I've also received some other questions in that email, and so I thought I would answer them here. One is on how to connect Morash, the reading A Night at the Theater on Singh's play, with the theory. And in the email, the student that asked the question says that it's probably going to be about conventions, and it is about conventions. Specifically, it is about the fact that conventions change, and that conventions can be therefore be different from one period to the next. They can also be different from one culture to the next, and that's very important. The other thing is, another question that she had was decorum, and this is actually related to Morash and theory, because in that short chapter, A Night at the Theater, Morash talks about how the fact that how the audience reacts so differently to Riders, to the performance of Riders to the Sea and to the performance of Playboy of the Western World. And they are serious and very polite and listen very quietly to Riders to the Sea, and they clap very enthusiastically. Whereas Playboy to the Western World, this was in 1907 when it was first played, people rioted. They were stomped, they shouted, they were not happy, and they let the actors know. And this caused a debate in Ireland about the theater and about audience behavior in the theater, and it resulted in basically a statute that would prohibit people from rioting in the theater, and would then make it necessary for them to exercise decorum, to be civilized, and to not interrupt the performance of the actors. But it also relates to conventions on the stage. Riders to the Sea is about death, but we never get to see anyone being killed. We never get to hear anything really violent, or see it. We hear about it, but we don't get to see it. Playboy to the Western World was almost, it was basically about celebrating the murder of another human being, and that wasn't considered good decorum. It wasn't considered good form. And so there were many objections to Playboys to the Western World, and both on the stage and regarding audience behavior at the time. Decorum has to do with civilized behavior, and it has to do with what we should show on stage and what we shouldn't show on stage. And there are still things that you can see in smaller theaters, fringe theaters, off-Broadway plays that you can't see on Broadway or in mainstream theater. There's still that difference. When it comes to explaining the term decorum, it is part of the explanation for why there is narrated action in plays. There's action that we see taking place, and there's action that we're told about. The off-stage action or narrated action is the action that we're told about. And that happens in part for decorum reasons, but in part to condense time, because the play would be too long if they were to show everything that happened throughout the period that they're talking about, or that where the events happen in the play. So often it's for condensation purposes. It lets us know many, many days or weeks or months or even years of time in a short space of time. The third reason that Wallace and Shepard talk about for narrated action is emotional thrill, that we actually can imagine much more than can be shown on the stage, so that we can create in our minds a picture that it gives us the emotional impact that is necessary for the play, and that the sounds and screams, the action that takes place, we enjoy imagining it. That's part of the reason for narrated action. Another part of the reason is related to that. He calls it aesthetic thrill, or Wallace and Shepard call it aesthetic thrill. I would really call it aesthetic pleasure. It's the pleasure in the aesthetic. It's the pleasure in knowing, I know I'm watching theater, I know it is fiction, but I'm enjoying looking at how are they going to solve this problem? How are they going to show me that Desdemona at the end of Shakespeare's Othello kills herself? How are they going to show me that she sticks a knife in her heart? How are they going to show me? You can go through anything, the love or death, or um, how are they going to manage that someone is supposed to fall from a great height, a height that would harm them if it was real? How are they going to show a sword fight? All these things can give aesthetic pleasure because we know we're watching fiction, but we are thrilled to see how they manage it. And so that has to do with watching it, but it also has to do with narrated action, that we can receive an aesthetic pleasure from knowing that we're imagining a World War II scene, but all we're actually getting is the noise, the explosion sounds. Um, and for narrated action, we can hear screams, but we don't actually get to see it. But we could also just hear about it, and it's told in such a way that we get an aesthetic thrill from that as well. So those things mesh. They go into each other. The offstage action and the narrated action very much go into each other. Um, but I hope that helps you with that, what decorum is and what aesthetic thrill or pleasure is. Those were the questions that this student had and that I wanted to take a quick look at again here. I hope that helps you, and I prefer to do these little short video clips in response to some of your questions, at least because it allows other students to hear the response as well.